Hey everybody, welcome, welcome to Hidden Horror. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate that. Let's get started. Good afternoon. Welcome to Hidden Horror. How are you guys doing today for Wednesday? I'm doing pretty good. Today I'm back. I started a collection that I'm calling Monster. The collection is on the Hidden Horror YouTube channel. And right now, this is the third video that I'm adding. The first video, it was a video about a boy that was pretty much, he was abused every day, leading and up until his death. He was beaten, he was stood on. His dad, he tried to drown him. He had bruises and lacerations all over his body. The two adults that also lived in the home, they didn't call the police. They didn't try to get him any help. Um, they pretty much ignored what was happening to him. And at just the young age of 10 years old, he passed away from just extreme abuse by the hands of his father. His name was Takanda Collins. The second video that I brought was a video about a father. This is more recent in the news. He executed his three young sons. They were 3 years old, 4 years old, and 7 years old. He recently did a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. His three sons, they were executed, shots to the head, while his wife and their sister were present. Just a very disturbing, very horrific case. All of these stories, I believe, are kind of tied together because I believe there was some mental issues working in those two cases. The second case was Chad Dorman's, of course. I believe there was something going on with him mentally. And in this case that I'm bringing today, it's the case of James Huberty. Now, in the first two cases, I described their mindset as being homicidal. In this case with James Huberty, I do feel different. I believe that his mindset was both homicidal and suicidal. For me, the difference is I do not believe that James Huberty, he was concerned about passing away. And the reason I feel this way is because he didn't try to get away. He didn't try to surrender. He was aggressive with the police. He took a stance. He continued to kill his victims. And he wasn't willing to stop. He was not going to stop. For me, that is the most deadliest, most dangerous, destructive criminal who cares for no one, including their own well being. Now, I want to go back to this time in 1984 when the massacre at the McDonald's happened. In 1984, this was a time very different from today. If you think about what was happening at the time and some of the messaging, it was very like a wholesome um, on TV, very wholesome shows, family oriented shows, shows that push certain morals, certain values, maybe even some type of religious faith in the content. The reason I say that is because I would say back then, and we're looking at 40 years ago, when you thought of a criminal, when you thought of someone that was harming, injuring, or killing someone, you thought of somebody that was a bad person, a criminal, someone that maybe had a past record, um, maybe was exposed to trauma, to stress, maybe had a lot of challenges in their childhood, adversity, difficulties, maybe was depressed, really sad, maybe even suffering from some delusions. You're not thinking of the type of person back then that is very normal, family oriented, has a family, has a wife, has kids. You really didn't see a lot of this type of killings by what you would pretty much consider like an ordinary person. You usually saw things like this from hardened criminals. I think that when we look back at the 40 years, are we seeing similarities today? Are we learning from these heinous crimes today, 40-year look back? Because when I look at some of the crimes that are happening today, I feel that things have gotten worse in society, and that now this level of violence, gun violence, crime is is normal. It's happening every day. Mass shootings almost every day in the United States. I think that people, due to a lot of factors, we can look at the prevalence of drugs. Even drugs are now legal that used to be illegal. We can look at how people's mindset is more self interest, self preservation. Um, the person is not caring about their neighbor. They don't have love in their heart. They're more protecting their life. And I think the the gap for the have and have nots has grown. Um, to the point where we're struggling with basic needs, needs for mental health, needs for housing, needs for wages. These are the things that can drive a person. Um, the challenges, the stress, not being able to provide, maybe being having illness, not having health care, not getting those services that you need, social services, mental health support. I think that we have moved away from a family centered lifestyle to a very self centered lifestyle. And we can see it in a lot of ways. We don't want to help each other. We don't want to come together. A lot of people don't believe so much in community anymore, but that's what we really need. We have to turn things around. So, this is kind of the reason I'm speaking about the things that I would have said in a video about some of the changes that we need to make to get away from such this violent um, path that we've been on with crime. Very young people committing crimes. And then we have adults that are doing extremely violent crimes. And of course, what the United States have been plagued with is these mass shootings. Now, this particular case of James Huberty is really significant. Even though it's 40 years old, it rings today. It rings today because we can see similar actions that occurred in this McDonald's massacre today. If we look at the shooting at the elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, we saw that there was an extreme police delay. Now, if we contrast that to the 1984 mass shooting that James Huberty did at the McDonald's, we can see some similarities. The gunmen in both cases, they had high-powered guns. Now, Mr. Huberty, he had several guns. From my review, the police felt that there could have been multiple shooters because they were hearing and seeing different guns by a shooter. Now, I think the biggest coincidence is not just that there were 21 people in each incident were killed, and you also have 19 injured in the 1984 massacre at the McDonald's. But I think it was the police response. Now, if we look at 1984, we have to concede that 1984, it was very different from our present day, right? um, the technology, the communication, cameras, people with cell phones, totally different. So, in some regards, the police may have had more challenges because they just didn't have the technology. Um, they didn't have the training, and they also didn't have the knowledge of all of these years of going over various mass shootings, right? In the Uvalde incident, the police would have way more technology, training, I would say collaboration with law enforcement in other areas, not just local, but also state and federal support. But in both cases, the response was the same. Law enforcement allowed an enormous amount of time between arriving at the scene and actually going and taking the actors down. In both cases, oddly, it was 77 minutes, but it is the police response that I'm focused on in how they allowed so much time to pass, which allowed, in both cases, the shooters to injure and kill many more people. Now, in the 1984 McDonald's massacre, those deaths included adults, some of the McDonald's employees, and also children. And then, of course, in the Uvalde, Texas mass shooting, it was adults, and of course, those students at the elementary school. So today I'm here. I'm here to talk about this terrible incident that occurred. And we're doing a look back, a 40-year look back at this mass shooting at the McDonald's. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to talk a little bit about the mass shooter, James Huberty, because I want to look into his mindset. What was his life like? Where did he grow up? How was he raised? What was his experiences? Did he have challenges? Did he have issues? Um, I believe that it can help us understand, firstly, the mindset of these various shooters, but also it can demonstrate what led up to the shooting. I believe typically this is something that these killers are thinking about. They may even be planning, but I think there is a mental break, a tipping point, and it's almost as if there's a light switch. They decide they're going to do the shooting. So I'm going to pull up a picture. Actually, was going to share, um, but I'm going to talk about him. So I'm going to do it a little differently. Okay. Let me see. Um, okay. I'm going to just show a couple of pictures that are available online. I'm going to share my screen now. So I'm gonna talk and try to give some background about the shooter. So I'm gonna try to enlarge. Okay. There's a picture of James Huberty. So I'm gonna give some background about him. So this information is coming from criminalminds.fandom.com. Um, just says James Huberty. It is not dated. Okay. So they have like a little quick thing about him. So his name is James Oliver Huberty. He was born October 11th, 1942 in Canton, Ohio. He died July 18th, 1984 in San Isidro, San Diego, California. He killed 21 victims and he had 19 that he attempted to kill, but they were injured. Some of his past occupations were funeral home undertaker, welder, and security guard. So let's start. James Oliver Huberty was an American mass murderer who perpetrated the San Isidro McDonald's massacre on July 18th, 1984. So let me see if I can might be able to pull some different pictures out. Okay, I was trying to enlarge it, but I can't. Let's see. There's another picture of him. I wanted to show you guys this one. So I'm gonna try to make it larger. Okay, that's perfect. The massacre killed 21 people and wounded 19 others before he was killed by a sniper. Born in Canton, Ohio on October 11, 1942, Huberty contracted polio when he was 3 years old, which left him with permanent difficulty walking. In the early 1950s, his mother left him upon refusing to move into the Pennsylvania Amish country after his father, Earl, purchased a farm there, and he has since been withdrawn. A minister later claimed that Huberty blamed God for taking his mother away from him. I do have a picture of his home. I want to show that. My apologies. I don't see the picture of his home, but I will pull up the picture of the McDonald's. Okay, let's continue. In his early adulthood, Huberty gained an interest in firearms and began using them. In 1962, he attended Malone College, a Jesuit community college, where he earned a bachelor's degree in sociology and also gained a license for embalming after attending the Pittsburgh Institute of Mortuary Science, although he did not pursue a job as an embalmer altogether. At the Institute, he met a woman named Etna and married her in 1965, having two daughters together. Huberty and Etna moved the family to Massacre, Ohio, where the former found, found work as a funeral home undertaker, but also had to hold down a number of other jobs that he lost quickly. So he's having issues keeping steady employment. The family then moved to Huberty's hometown of Canton after a fire completely demolished their residence, and he became a welder there. I want to go back just a second because I don't want to overlook the fact that his mother, she left him. And I believe that this was very difficult for him. He was a young boy. I think that him having to grow up without his mother was very hard for him. And I think that caused him to have some issues. I think also if you couple that with him having polio at just the young age of 3 years old, I think that he may have struggled with that because he had difficulty walking. Kids, when they see that, they could tease him, and without maybe the attention, the affection, the concern of his mother being there in those younger years, it may have caused him to have some issues. Now, let's continue. Edna attempted to instruct one of her daughters to physically, excuse me, let me go back a little bit because I didn't give the daughters' names. I was not providing that for a reason, to protect his children. So the family then moved to Huberty's hometown of Canton after a fire completely demolished their residence, and he became a welder there. Huberty and Edna had a history of domestic violence, and both also displayed signs of violent behavior. Edna attempted to instruct one of the daughters to physically assault a classmate during a birthday party and then later threatened the same classmate's mother with a 9mm pistol, being subsequently arrested for the act, but the pistol wasn't confiscated. While Huberty threatened to shoot a neighbor's dog after it defecated on his lawn and also killed his own dog in a separate incident after a neighbor complained about it damaging his vehicle. As a result of several run ins with Huberty and Edna, local police knew the family well. So, this is saying that the family, they had a history of domestic violence, that the police were aware of them. Let's see if we can find the picture of his home. So I wanted to show you that. Okay. Oh, let's see if I can find one that's going to let me enlarge it more. That is the home. It's just such a small picture. Can try to find another picture. Or let me see. Maybe I can just enlarge it. Okay, well, that's the largest I can make it. Let's continue. Huberty began to develop beliefs that foreign bankers were manipulating the Federal Reserve System, intentionally bankrupting the U.S. and breaking down society. He also blamed the failures of numerous businesses and Soviet aggression for the increasingly strict federal government regulations. As a result, he became a survivalist, purchasing thousands of dollars of non perishable food and 6 firearms as preparation. So, in his mind, he is creating this idea that he needs to stock up on food if he has to survive. And he also has these different ideas about the government, the rules, and how strict they are. And he's preparing his family with these perishable food items. I'm sorry, non perishable food items, and also stocking up on firearms. Now, we've already read that there were firearms in the house with his children as well. At one point, excuse me, he also threatened to shoot any random people if he was fired from his job. Wow. So, because he's experienced this job loss, not being able to maintain a job, he has now threatened to shoot random people if he was fired from his job. Now, if you can't tell me that is a very dangerous mindset, you're going to shoot random people if you lose a job. This is somebody that's under stress. They're under stress. Let's keep going. At one point, after getting another job, but then losing it shortly afterward, he attempted to commit suicide, but Edna stopped him. So, again, I believe he had both homicidal and suicidal thoughts. Now, if he had attempted suicide, this mass shooting at the McDonald's would not have happened with him. But Edna stopped him, and now he goes on to continue with life, and now he's become both homicidal, willing to hurt and kill others, as well as he's also suicidal, in my opinion. In September of 1983, Huberty became involved in a motorcycle accident that left his right arm twitching uncontrollably after lingering damage caused by his childhood polio was aggravated by the incident. So he's having medical issues. Is he getting the medical care he needs? What about his treatment? Um, it seems like he's having one issue after another, besides losing the jobs. As a result, he was forced to resign from his occupation as a welder. He later experienced legal problems after a botched sale of a 6-unit apartment complex in Canton when a real estate company that previously made a generous offer on the property later allegedly reneged on its part of the deal. So now, on top of everything else, his medical issues, right? Having issues with working consistently, losing jobs after the fire where the house had burnt down and having to start over and over again. Now he's going to start having these financial problems. That is another stressor. And remember, if you had polio since you were 3 years old, this could be really traumatic, especially because he didn't have his mother. She left him when he was very young. Let's continue. Presumably, in response to the motorcycle accident, the family moved to Tijuana, Mexico in January 1984, but then later moved to San Diego, California, specifically in the San Isidro neighborhood. There, Huberty became a security guard, only to be dismissed 2 weeks prior to the massacre. So again, he's now had to downsize his life because now he's experiencing some financial issues. They moved to Tijuana, Mexico. They don't stay there. Then they go to San Diego, California. They go into this neighborhood, and the McDonald's is literally a few minutes walking distance from his home. Remember, I told you that some people they commit crimes due to the proximity. This is close to his home. He may have gone there before. It's access. He could walk there in just a few minutes. Okay, let's continue. So I'm going to switch. On the day before the massacre, Huberty called a mental health center, but his surname was misspelled as Shouberty, and his call wasn't returned, due to his statement that that it wasn't an emergency. So let me just pause here. I can't even get the words out. So he goes to a mental health center. He goes there, and because of the questions they ask you, they have a little questionnaire, they ask you questions. And because he didn't describe his needs as being an emergency, they did not immediately deal with his issues. Well, of course, now, present day, if you're calling for some mental health, there are people 24/7 to assist you, which again, these are things that law enforcement, the social services, mental health community have learned. If people are struggling, have someone available to assist them. We want to prevent things from happening, prevent incidents like this, any type of suicidal thoughts, any type of homicidal thoughts. We need people that are going to be available 100%, 24/7 to assist. Okay. Let's keep going. But remember, we're talking about 1984, 40 years ago. So we have made some strides, okay, to improve areas that, we could see deficiencies. On July 18th, 1984, the day of the massacre, he took his family to the San Diego Zoo and then ate at a McDonald's restaurant in the Claremont neighborhood. It wasn't the McDonald's that was the target location of the massacre. After coming home from the restaurant, Huberty armed himself with his weapons and left his apartment wearing fatigue pants and a dark shirt and also carrying a bag. So he's like put on clothing, like we've heard of other mass shootings where they typically will put on the fatigue clothing or black clothing, indicative of the state of their mind, dark. They want to hide, they want to conceal, they want to evade, they want to blend in with this type of clothing. So he's leaving his home where he was. He's taking the guns with him. And before he leaves, he tells his wife something. And this is where I start saying these are some of the red flags that are known, okay? It's very important. When you get these red flags, you have to do something about them. You have to call 911. You have to try to contact law enforcement to identify this person as a threat, okay? Before leaving, he told Edna, that's his wife, that he was hunting humans. Hunting humans. Scary words. Scary words. Hunting. You hunt animals. You don't hunt humans. And if we just look back, look at his life, look at all the trauma, all the stressors, losing one job after another, struggling with his mental health, dealing with his medical issues, having this financial issue, having to move, his house burned down. All of this is in his mindset, weighing on him. His mother never really being around and really probably feeling like abandoned, at this point, and not being able to get on a good footing within the home, within his family, saying that all these reports, domestic violence, calls to the police, to where his family is familiar with the police, with law enforcement. So he tells his wife, "I'm going to hunt humans." When she questioned his departure, she's probably said, "Well, where are you going, honey?" She's seeing him put on his clothing, grabbing the weapons, and she's like, "Where are you going with this stuff?" I'm just acting it out. And he says he's going to hunt humans. Wouldn't that make you think, let me call law enforcement, let me call 911, let me at least report it. Now, if nothing comes of it, so be it. She couldn't do anything. Okay, let's keep going. During her interrogation, Edna provided no explanation as to why she didn't think of reporting her husband. She also cited the failed real estate deal in Canton, and that's in Ohio, where they were used to live, regarding the apartment complex as the primary motivator for the massacre. That financial stress, the struggling. Okay. After visiting a Big Bear supermarket and a post office, apparently searching for locations to commit his massacre, Huberty then decided to choose the San Ysidro McDonald's restaurant as his target. So let me just say this. Um, Again, you have to look at proximity. I believe the post office and the McDonald's were literally side by side, very close next to each other. So if he's looking for high numbers, typically if you go into the post office, it's probably going to be less than maybe 5 to 10 people in there. You're not going to get a lot of people, a lot of traffic in the post office. And he has multiple weapons. So when he saw that, he probably decided, well, no, um, this is probably not the best place to go. And now the grocery store, the shooting was like in the mid of the afternoon before 4 o'clock. It started before 4 o'clock. So you might not have that many people at the grocery store because you got to think about it like this. People are either at work, um, at the time of the shooting between, let's say, 3:30 and 4 when it started. So you might not see a lot of people at the grocery store at this time. Now this is summertime, so you're not gonna have kids in school, but you're also not going to see a lot of people at the grocery store at this time of day. So I'm guessing that's probably why he didn't pick the grocery store. And I believe at this McDonald's, they had a play area for the kids, or they had an area. This is a very popular McDonald's. So they had like a high volume of people that typically would be at this location. This was a very popular location. So I'm guessing he settled on the McDonald's. He could walk there. Um, no one stopped him. He had the weapons out in broad daylight. Nobody said anything. Um, but let's keep going. So he selected the McDonald's out of the supermarket and then the post office. He chose the McDonald's. So we have to think about his process. I don't think he planned it all out, but I think he was thinking the high number. He wanted to harm a lot of people, and there were probably much more people at the McDonald's at this time of day. As he walked down San Pedro Boulevard with his guns in plain sight, a witness spotted them and called the police. So this is important. Excuse me, but accidentally gave them the wrong address. This is important because, again, red flag, right? He's walking down the street with the guns in plain sight. Red flag, call police, but the address is mistaken. Now, of course, with the technology today, you can pull it maps up right on your phone, and give the correct location. But remember, we're talking about 40 years ago, 1984. But the Good Samaritan that did this, thank you, because we want to give law enforcement as many details. We can give details of the suspect, what they're wearing, the fact that they had the weapons, what type of weapons. Are they handguns? Are they assault rifles? Like all of this information can help aid law enforcement, okay? So let's change the picture. See, to find a different picture. Okay. So the Good Samaritan gave him the wrong address. Understandable. Okay. Meanwhile, Huberty walked into the restaurant at around 3:40 p.m. and ordered everyone inside to lie down. When they did, he opened fire on them, injuring and or killing many. He then methodically executed any who survived before firing at people as they fled, and then those in the parking lot. During the shooting, he would shout that he had killed thousands more prior. So let's take a little pause. Okay. Take a little pause. That's like two sentences, but I'm going to filter through. When he arrived at the McDonald's, he had his assault high powered weapons. He was able to take over the McDonald's by shouting for everyone to lie down. Maybe the employees may have felt this could be a robbery, but that was not his intentions. Remember, this is someone that is homicidal and what I believe also suicidal. He doesn't have any intentions on robbing the McDonald's, taking the money and running, trying to get away. No, his intentions clearly are to kill, harm, injure as many people as he can. So he gets them all to cooperate and they all lie down. And again, maybe people thought this was just going to be a robbery. Not saying it's a routine thing, but a lot of people will tell people to get down. If there's a bank robbery, if they're in a store or something, they want to control when they're outnumbered the people and what they're doing. So they will tell them, get down. They don't want them to see their face. Lay down and get low. And the people, they complied. And he opened fire. This is a McDonald's that's containing the young and the old, children, families. Can you imagine that? Trying to cover up, protect your children, babies, just trying to, really get you to see this was really I don't even have the words. Awful is not adequate. Um, Maybe sadistic, very troubling act. Let's continue. In to the shooting, then patrol officer Miguel Rosario arrived on the scene at 4:07 p.m. So you're almost about 27 minutes into the shooting. They figure out this isn't the right McDonald's. The police, law enforcement headed to the wrong McDonald's. They figure that out. They figure out the correct address and they're headed there. And we have a police officer that's arriving on the scene. Now, I don't know because we're 27 minutes in. I don't know if when he arrived, did he see any victims? Did he see them on the ground? Did he hear any shooting? Did he hear any sounds that would indicate that there was a active shooter inside the McDonald's? But let's continue. Into the shooting, then patrol officer Miguel Rosario arrived on the scene at 4:07 p.m., believing the incident to be accidental. He witnessed Huberty walk outside with his Uzi in his hand. Huberty promptly opened fire on the officer, shattering the car's windshield and emergency lights and forcing him behind a parked pickup truck. Rosario refused to return fire, believing that Huberty had accomplices that would back him up. So he called for a code 10 to send in SWAT, then a code 11 to send in everybody. When SWAT arrived, Huberty fled back inside the restaurant and a standoff ensued. 6 blocks encompassing the McDonald's were closed off as a result. We got to pause here because we're not talking about the lapse in time. James Huberty, he continued to stalk the victims, check to see if they were unalive, and he would deliver additional shots to victims that he already shot. He searched throughout the McDonald's looking for any survivors, anyone that he hadn't shot to kill them. The children that were alive in the McDonald's, because the police did not enter into the McDonald's for 77 minutes, the children were crying. They were moaning. They were frightened. They were scared. The parents that were alive, they could not console them. They couldn't quiet them. And over time, Mr. Huberty, he grew angry. He grew agitated at hearing the cries of the children. Initially, it's reported that he didn't want to shoot any of the children, but because he was growing furious over the crying, he began to shoot the little children. Let's continue. And again, this is why law enforcement has the training now not to wait to confront the shooter, try to take them out. Don't wait because in the waiting, they have all of this ammunition, all of these high powered weapons to essentially kill as many people as they can. The officers readied themselves with the special equipment in their squad cars, as reporter Monica Zek reported on the progressing events from the view of a small airplane flying overhead. The nearby Interstate 5 highway and Tijuana border crossing were forced to be closed down for the day as both were right in the line of Huberty's fire. Finally, a sniper named Chuck Foster positioned himself at a post office south from the McDonald's restaurant and was able to get a good shot at Huberty, who was near a counter. So it's reported that Huberty was sitting on top of the McDonald's counter inside the restaurant. And for some time, they could see like below the waist. And at one point, he moved and they were able to see above, and he had the approval to take the shot. They were concerned about the glass at the McDonald's because it was so thick. But during the time of the shootings, over the 77 minutes, some of the door glass had gotten shot out. So they had a direct, clear path to shoot James Huberty. And that's what they did. The sniper was able to shoot him. At around 5:16 p.m., Foster fired one shot that pierced through a glass window and hit Huberty in the heart, killing him instantly. The entire event lasted for a total of 77 minutes, and when authorities entered the restaurant, they found 21 dead bodies along with an additional 19 injured victims. A total of 257 bullets were fired by Huberty during the massacre. Again, a total of 257 bullets were fired by Huberty during these 77 minutes. See if I can find some more pictures. Due to the number of fatalities, the Isidro Civic Center had to be used to hold all the wakes for local funeral homes. The McDonald's restaurant was razed, with the property being reestablished as the Southwestern Community College's Education Center, with a memorial for the deceased victims at its front. Also, excuse me, so what they're saying is they tore the McDonald's down and they placed a memorial with the school there. Also, due to the fact that Huberty easily outgunned Officer Rosario with his Uzi submachine gun, San Diego increased its special police unit training and gave its officers high power firearms so they could deal with similar situations in the future with ease. Additionally, psychiatric counseling was introduced to San Pedro based officers involved in traumatic incidents such as Huberty's massacre. The families of the deceased victims banded together in an attempt to sue the McDonald's Corporation, but their case was appealed. So, what they're saying, some of the results of the shooting were they wanted to equip officers with a more high powered, efficient gun to deal with instances such as confronting a mass shooter. And then they wanted to offer officers psychiatric counseling due to this scene. This was a very disturbing, violent, um, difficult scene for officers. Not only because of the deaths, but because the deaths were very violent, some multiple shots. Um, I read many stories. One man that tried to talk sense, just common sense, to James Huberty, he shot him 14 times. Mr. Huberty shot children. Um, he shot a baby. It's just a very heinous scene for police officers, and they're going to have those images in their mind. Okay. In 1986, Aetna also made an attempt to sue McDonald's along with Huberty's former employer company Babcock and Wilcox for $5 million. The claim she made was that Huberty's homicidal behavior was triggered by a combination of eating McDonald's chicken nuggets, which were filled with monosodium glutamate, and working around highly poisonous metals, specifically lead and cadmium, induced his delusions and rage. While Edna's lawsuit didn't succeed, an autopsy did find high levels of lead and cadmium in Huberty's system. Also, a California appellate opinion was filed against McDonald's, stating that it had no duty of care to prevent the massacre. On September 27, 2012, the appellate opinion became the basis for a motion filed by catastrophic personal injury defense law firm Taylor Anderson LLP, which was speaking for Cinemark Theaters when three injured victims of the 2012 Aurora Shooting sued the movie theater chain for neglecting to provide adequate security and safety measures. I will say something to this. The position of Etna, his wife, she felt that in combination, in tandem with McDonald's and his employer, that they caused these delusions from him eating chicken nuggets and working, that this caused his delusions, which led to the McDonald's massacre. Um, I guess people can sue for whatever reason they want. Anybody can file a lawsuit, but I think that's a very hard claim to cause McDonald's to be sued. You know, if you're willingly buying and digesting their food, um, now they have all of their dietary numbers and everything when you eat it, but that is a far fetched to claim that eating chicken nuggets would lead someone to be delusional, homicidal, and suicidal. I just don't see the connection. Now, the fact that they were able to find in Mr. Huberty's toxicology screen some lead and some cadmium. I don't know if those numbers were significant enough to cause issues. And because of his past, again, his childhood adversity, trauma that he experienced, the stress that he felt, he probably was depressed. He seemed to be a little delusional with his thoughts about the government and the stockpiling of non perishables. All of that coupled together, I think it's also hard to place this blame on an employer. But anyway, let's continue. We're wrapping this article up. Huberty's massacre seems to have also prompted a string of other massacres, mostly workplace based assaults. First, on August 20th, 1986, at Edmond, Oklahoma, a U.S. Postal Service worker named Patrick Sherrill used a pair of 45 caliber Colt 1911A1 pistols to kill 14 employees and wound an additional six before committing suicide. Then, on October 10th, 1991, at Ridgewood, New Jersey, another U.S. Postal Service worker named Joseph Harris shot and killed two employees at his workplace after killing his former supervisor and her boyfriend at their home. A month later, on November 14th, at Royal Oak, Michigan, yet another U.S. Postal Service worker named Thomas McIlvaine used a Ruger 10/22 rifle to kill four employees, then kill himself. Finally, on the most well known occasion, a man named George Hennard committed a massacre similar to that of Huberty's on October 16th, 1991, opening fire at a Luby's restaurant in Killeen, Texas, with two semi automatic pistols, killing 23 and injuring 20. According to a True TV article mentioning him, Hennard was actually motivated to do so after watching a documentary about Huberty. Huberty shot his victims with a long-barreled 9mm Uzi submachine gun, the primary firearm used in the massacre, a 12-gauge Winchester pump-action shotgun, and a 9mm Browning HP semi-automatic pistol. His victims were mostly Mexican immigrants and Mexican American. Whether or not it was intentional or merely because of the area the massacre occurred at is unknown. He would sometimes toss fast food at his victims before shooting them. Let's see. Trying to see if they had the picture of the weapon on here. Okay. Wanted you to see that. Okay, those were the weapons. Yeah, three weapons. So these are the names of the victims. These are the victims that were unalive. Neva Kane, 22. She was a McDonald's manager. She was shot in the face. Victor Maximilian Chito Rivera. He was 25 years old. He was shot 14 times. Maria Cominero Silva. She was 19 years old. She was shot in the chest. Claudia Perez, 9 years old. She was shot in the cheek, the torso, her thigh, her hip, armpit, and head. Jackie Rees, 18 years old. She was shot 48 times. She was pregnant. Jackie was pregnant. Carlos Rees, he was 8 months old. He was Jackie Rees' son. He was shot in the back. Lawrence Herman Gus Versluis, he was 62 years old. Blythe Herrera, he was 31 years old. He was shot multiple times in the head. Mateo Herrera, he was 11 years old. He was Blythe Herrera's son. He was shot multiple times in the head, like his mother. Arisdelcy Vargas, 31 years old, shot in the back of the head. He survived but died of the gunshot wound. She died the next day. Hugo Vasquez, he was 45 years old. He was shot in the chest. Omar Hernandez was 11 years old. He was killed outside of the McDonald's restaurant. He was shot in the head and body. David Delgado, he was 11 years old. He was also killed outside of the restaurant. He was shot in the head and the body. Ada Victoria, she was 69 years old. She was killed outside the restaurant. She was shot in the face. Miguel Victoria Ulloa, he was 74 years old. He was Ada's husband. He was wounded by a buckshot. Then he was shot in the head. Paulina Aquina Lopez, 21 years old. She was a McDonald's employee. Elsa Borboa Firo, she's 19 years old. She was a McDonald's employee. Margarita Padilla, she was 18 years old. She was a McDonald's employee. And then we have Jose Perez, 19 years old, Gloria Gonzalez, 23 years old, and Michelle Carncrust, 18 years old. Now we have some of the victims that had injuries. These are the following. John Arnold, he was 16 years old. He was shot in the torso. Imelda Perez, 15 years old. This was Claudia Perez's sister. Aurora Pina, 11 years old. This was Jackie Reed's niece. She was shot in the leg. Then she was shot in the jaw, her neck, and her arm. Keith Thomas, he was 12 years old. He was shot twice in the shoulder and arms. Ronald Herrera, 33 years old. This was Blythe Herrera's husband and Mateo Herrera's father. He was shot 8 times in the stomach, arm, hip, shoulder, and head. Guadalupe Del Rio, he was 24 years old. He was shot multiple times. Joshua Coleman, 11 years old. He was wounded outside the restaurant. He was shot in the stomach, his buttocks, his hands, and his arms. Now, the Felix family, Marcela, Carlita, and Astolfa, they were all wounded outside the restaurant. Marcela was shot in the head, the arms, and chest, and was partially blinded and paralyzed. Carlita, 4 months old, Astolfa and Marcela's daughter, was shot in the head and torso. And Astolfo, Marcela's husband, he was shot in the chest and neck. He was 31 years old. Now we have Albert Leos. He was 17 years old. He was a McDonald's employee. Now we have these other people that were also injured. 33-year-old Juan Acosta, 36-year-old Anthony Atkins, 26-year-old Astafo Siwando, 22-year-old Francisco Lopez, 25-year-old Maria Rivera, 4-year-old Mireya Rivera, 12-year-old Keith Thomas, 33-year-old Juan Tocano, and 22-year-old Kenny Villegas. So I want to just thank the criminalminds.fandom.com for this excellent coverage. Now, let me close this. So, let me see. I have 2 comments. Hi, Johnny McCauley. You said it's hard to believe it's been 40 years. You know, the restaurant was packed at around 4 p.m. That honestly was my thinking, Johnny, that he wanted to harm as many people as he could. So instead of going to the grocery store or the post office, he opted for the McDonald's, which would have a constant flow of new arrivals coming in to order food, to pick up dinner. And, no one will be suspecting that there is a whole mass shooting going on inside of that McDonald's. Okay, so we have more to cover. Now I have some videos. I have one more article, but we're not ready for it yet. The first video is going to talk about a movie, a documentary. I found out more about James Huberty through watching the documentary and doing some research. I felt like it's easier, I believe, to demonstrate things also through video, which can really keep a person's interest. And I want to share some of the videos that I watched in doing my research. And I want to talk specifically about the movie documentary 77 Minutes. I watched the documentary and I don't want to really give an opinion because I feel that in talking about what happened, I'm expressing my feelings. If you want to say my opinion, yes. Um, I wasn't there that day, so I can't assess in a way to criticize the actions of others. I can only speak in terms of what can we learn and how can we apply this for the changes that I feel we need, which in the past I have said in different videos and other conversations, this is not a one approach issue. There's some mental health issues definitely there. We need to bring back mental health counseling. We need to bring back some of the facilities that would assist people in that endeavor to address their mental health issues, not just having therapy, but having facilities. Some people need to be medicated, some people need to be separated for their protection and to also protect society from them. So that's very important. I think we need to address some of what I would say are the social services issues like the housing, the poverty, the wages, access to medical care. Like it's not a one area issue. And we have to deal with crime prevention, access to guns, who can have guns, what type of guns. I mean, if the police are outnumbered, how can they get to these scenes? That they're coming upon a scene, as I showed you in the video with Chad Dorman. They have no idea. If Chad Dorman wanted to open fire on those two officers that came to the scene first, they were unprotected. They really were. They didn't have anywhere to hide, no coverage. And this is common, just like in this incident, in the first police officer on site is being rained down in, with gun from the shooter from the McDonald's, and he has a high powered rifle. So he's actually at the post office thinking something's going on there. In reality, it was happening at the McDonald's, and he already had the wrong address. And he's coming upon the scene, and he's got inferior um, weapons. That's why he didn't shoot back. Because he didn't know if that was going to inflame the shooter. He didn't know if it was more than one shooter. I'm sure he could differentiate. There was different guns. He had 3 different weapons. So again, I want to go over some things that I learned in the movie slash documentary 77 Minutes. So let's get started with that. I'm going to share my screen. And I'm going to try to acknowledge each video. However, I apologize if I don't. Sometimes I'm just moving and thinking too quick, but I have attached in the Hidden Horror Facebook page all of the links to everything I'm sharing today and a little bit more. I'm not going to cover everything. I did link the IMDb page for the movie 77 Minutes, but I'm not going to show you and go over it because I'm going to play the trailer. I'm going to let you hear some of the commentary from, if we want to call him the director, his thoughts on really why he brought the movie forward, things we can learn. We have to almost take things, especially from my platform, from an educational background resource. I'm here to teach. I'm here to share information and resources. Okay, I want us to learn from the things from the past so that we don't repeat things. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll get to the first video. We have about 5 or 6 videos. Okay, so Okay, so um no, this isn't the first one. Oh, this is the one. Okay. Okay. Um so the documentary is called 77 Minutes. It's about the 1984 massacre with James Huberty. And this is just a short video about the director talking about the movie, okay, or the documentary. So I'm gonna share. I'm gonna enlarge my screen here. It's just over a minute long. Okay, so let me just pause it for a second. So that's the director, filmmaker, Min, and he's talking about some of the events and how everything was handled. Okay. So I want to acknowledge that this video was provided by KPBS Public Media. Okay, and it's titled Filmmaker Discusses 77 Minutes Documentary on 1984 San Ysidro McDonald's Mass Murder. So um, I want to go on and go to the next video because I want you to see the trailer for the movie, okay? Want to make sure that you're getting everything. I'm always concerned about that. This video was provided by Dreamscape Publishing. It's titled 77 Minutes Trailer.
Contained moving around in there, still stuff being fired.
He entered the facility heavily armed, immediately started shooting everybody.
Gotta make this a code 11 also. We getting shots fired. We have numerous people inside.
It's supposed to be at McDonald's at 424 West San Ysidro. It's a 245 shooting.
You couldn't see in the building because of the sun. They couldn't see anyone in there, and they also didn't know who was in there.
I was like wondering, where are the police? Where are the police? It just kept going on, and I know that's not like okay. And he's killing more people.
That last image was the image where the man is with the red shirt and the fatigue pants. That was James Huberty. He was unalive, but I don't know why they handcuffed him. Um, Maybe just for safety precautions, but that was an image of him at the end of the trailer. Okay, so I'm not saying, hey, go watch the movie, but I would encourage you, if you're interested and you want to learn more about what happened at the McDonald's and how law enforcement handled the reporting and going into the McDonald's and actually confronting the shooter. I would recommend you watch the movie. I watched it right online. It was no cost. I am going to show you just a couple of minutes of the movie. That will be at closer to the end. The next video, I wanted to go over one of the victims' stories. There's a lot of victims and there's a lot of stories. I think one of the most compelling stories that I saw was of this victim. She actually doesn't remember what happened because she was a baby, but she did survive. She was injured and shot. And she just has a ray of light of survival, her and her mother. So I wanted to share and highlight her story in particular. So I'll do that now. I'll share my screen. This video is provided by ABC 10 News. It's titled Shot in the Head. 32 years later, McDonald's massacre survivor shares her story. So I'm going to expand this. And okay, I want to start it at the beginning.
New at 11.
The bullet that was supposed to hit my heart hit her hand.
She was just 4 months old when a man with a gun and a mission to kill shot her in the head. But little baby Carla survived that horrific McDonald's massacre where 21 others died. And tonight, many years later, she's back here in San Diego to share her story, soon to be told in a documentary. And our 10 News anchor, Itika Milana, shows us the series of events that saved baby Carla.
Yeah, that McDonald's was torn down and it was replaced with this college. Carla Felix was just an infant and she doesn't remember that day, but she carries the horror with her every day.
My mom was holding me when we got out of the car was when he shot us.
1984, Carla Felix and her parents had just pulled into the McDonald's in San Ysidro.
Who thinks that you're going to go to McDonald's and get shot?
James Huberty, 41, and a father himself, shot everyone in sight, even this 4-month-old baby.
The bullet that was supposed to hit my heart hit her hand.
But the bullets kept coming. Her mother shot in the eye.
My mom and I have the same scar on our stomach. And then I have a few in my back. I have half a bullet still in my head.
Carla's father pushed through his injury, grabbed his baby, and handed her to a complete stranger.
The stranger then handed it to a policeman, and they both rushed it to the hospital.
This is a picture of a nurse caring for baby Carla. Charlie Min is making a documentary about that horrific day. It's called 77 Minutes. Min says that's how long it took for the SWAT team to get there and kill Huberty.
The victims need a voice.
On the anniversary, every July 18th, I go back and I look at the videos, and it's hard to believe I was involved.
No memory of what happened to her, but the scars still with her, emotionally and physically.
I do believe I'm a miracle child. Like, for a 4-month-old to get shot and survive it's crazy.
Charlie Min says he's going to donate part of his proceeds to the 2 San Diego police officers shot last month. In San Ysidro, Itika Milanes.
So that's one. Carlita's story is just one of the stories, or really, her family, her and her mom and her dad. They're just one of the stories that's highlighted in the documentary. I can't even imagine the trauma that the victims felt, that they endured, especially because 77 minutes is a very long time. I'm sure they were wondering, like, where is law enforcement? Where is help? Where are the ambulances? You know, we need help. We're shot. We're bleeding out. And he would go and shoot them again. If he thought they were alive, he would shoot them again. And he's shooting them in the chest, in the head. These are areas where all your organs are, you know, your brain functions. You know, this is to unalive you. So it's just very horrific. I have a portion of the documentary that I want to share now. I'm going to put up a warning. This is very, very graphic, very, very disturbing, this video. I know many people can't handle this content, so I am advising you, if you're not able to watch and view a murder crime scene that's has blood, it has victims, please check off now. If you want to fast forward the video, it's going to be about 5 minutes. So you can fast forward through this portion of the documentary from the movie 77 Minutes. I'm just giving you a warning because it's very graphic. If you're here, you know, this is my last warning. I'll give you a few more seconds if you need to check off. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. So this documentary was made in 2016. Within the documentary, there was video taken at the crime scene that day, showing the victims that were outside of the McDonald's restaurant, as well as some of the victims inside the McDonald's restaurant, including the shooter, James Huberty. So I'm going to press play. It's going to be under 5 minutes that we're going to watch from the documentary. And I'm watching from the website Tubi. Okay. I'm going to press play now. Last 5 seconds if you need to check off. The pictures, the depiction in the video is very graphic. Okay.
You're viewing the body of a male Mexican approximately 10 years old. He's wearing brown cords and a camouflage shirt. He is located on the west sidewalk of the patio area at the McDonald's restaurant. We are now viewing the body of a male Mexican, approximately 10 years old, wearing brown shorts and a green t-shirt. He is lying on his stomach with a large amount of vomit in front of his face. We now view the remains of a female Mexican lying on her stomach. She is wearing a pair of white pants and a white blouse. Now viewing the remains of a male Mexican wearing blue shorts and a blue shirt. He is also lying on the west walkway right outside the double doors of the restaurant area.
They have a pathway over through here? Okay.
Just a little bit slower, Jim.
Watch yourself through here. And also the floor is slick. Farther shot. Directly to your left.
So I'm going to stop it here because I only want to show you the portion that I believe law enforcement took the video. I don't really want to show you any content by the filmmaker from the documentary. So I believe that was all police-related video from the scene. So how are you guys? Does anyone have a comment? Would anyone like to post a comment before I move forward? I'll give you about a minute to do that because I'm going to move on from the video and start to wrap things up with the article. And then I want to talk about the area that they created as a memorial to the victims. So that's what we will wrap up with. So I'll give you about a minute if you want to comment. I can read that comment if you would like. Give you 30 more seconds. Okay, me not seeing any new comments, I'm going to go on to the last two parts. So CNN, they did an article. It's titled "Slaughter at McDonald's Changed How Police Operate." And they highlighted a few things. This article is by Jim Kavanaugh. I'm not seeing a date on it. It may be a very old article, I'm not sure, but I'm not seeing a date on it. Let's get to the article. When James Huberty walked into a McDonald's restaurant 25 years ago this month, he knew he was going to kill somebody. He probably didn't know his murderous rampage would change how police departments work. Police help a wounded customer out of a California McDonald's where a man killed 21 people in 1984. At 3:40 p.m. on July 18, 1984, Huberty carried a long-barreled Uzi, a pump-action shotgun, and a handgun into a McDonald's in San Ysidro, an enclave of San Diego, California. Witnesses said the unemployed welder and security guard started shooting immediately and kept on shooting for 77 minutes into a police sniper on a nearby rooftop ended the siege with a bullet through Huberty's heart. When the carnage ended, Huberty and 21 victims, including grandmothers, an infant, children on bicycles, and teenage McDonald's employees, laid dead inside and outside the restaurant. 19 others were wounded. That's an extraordinary number. San Diego Police Captain Miguel Rosario, a patrol officer back then, was the first cop on the scene, believing he was responding to a single accidental shooting. Carrying a standard issue 38 caliber revolver with 6 bullets, the Marine Corps veteran was in for the fight of his life against a much better armed opponent. Talk about feeling inadequate, Rosario said. He's got an Uzi, I've got a 38, and I'm thinking it's a robbery gone bad, and his buddies are going to encircle me. Rosario would later play a key role in beefing up officers' weaponry and training to stop violent criminals. When Rosario arrived at the McDonald's, he saw people hiding behind cars in the lot. He didn't know what was going on, But I got that little sick feeling in the pit of my stomach, he said. He looked up to see a man, Huberty, open a side door of the restaurant, the Uzi across his chest. The two men eyed each other, and then Huberty moved aggressively. The SWAT trained officer ducked behind a parked pickup truck, and he started opening up on me, Rosario said. He was badly outgunned and knew it. Worse, he believed he had more than one adversary. I wouldn't have minded taking him on one, Rosario said in his transplanted South Bronx accent. But if he had buddies in there and they had shoulder arms, I would have been in a world of hurt. Huberty fired about 30 armor-piercing rounds at the officer, who could hear them striking metal posts and skipping off the asphalt. From behind the truck, Rosario radioed in a code 10, send SWAT, and seconds later a code 11, send everybody. San Diego SWAT team then consisted of patrol officers with extra training who carried their special equipment in their squad cars, Rosario said. Huberty retreated inside as other police units arrived. Rosario ran back to his car to retrieve his Ruger Mini 14 military-style rifle. Two patrol officers fired shotguns to cover Rosario while he took up position, but he couldn't get a clear shot. Reporter Monica Zeck had a bird's eye view of the scene. She was giving traffic reports from a small airplane for local TV and radio stations. I looked down and could see that there was people ducking for cover, and there was a fire truck there with everybody behind it, she recalled. She saw two boys lying on the ground, tangled in their bicycles after being shot by Huberty, and people hiding behind the low walls of the restaurant's playground. Circling at 3,000 feet, Zek alerted authorities to close nearby Interstate 5 and the Tijuana border crossing a few blocks away because drivers were heading straight into the line of fire. The bright sunshine and the eatery's smoked windows made it hard for police to see inside, but eventually Chuck Foster, a police sniper on the post office roof next door, got a clear view of Huberty near the counter. Foster dropped him with a single shot through a glass door. The battle was over, but the lessons were just beginning. Police clearly needed more firepower and a new strategy, Rosario said. The time had come where you had to have a full-time, committed, and dedicated, highly trained, well-equipped team that were committed to shooting, being in shape, and being able to respond rapidly anywhere in the city, he said. We didn't have what we have now, Rosario said. We have a special response team, hostage rescue, very elite, well-trained. It's an elite team within SWAT. We have access to helicopters now and all of that kind of stuff. We didn't have none of that back then. After San Isidro, the department created a dedicated unit that trains continuously and uses much more formidable weapons and tactics. We became pretty much special forces specialists, if you will, he said. Police departments nationwide soon realized their own need for tactical specialists. The San Isidro massacre seemed to introduce a cluster of mass shootings in the 80s and early 90s, said James Allen Fox, a Northeastern University professor and author of 6 books on mass murder. These included post office rampages in Oklahoma, New Jersey, and Michigan, and culminated with the Luby's restaurant slaughter in Killeen, Texas in 1991, in which 23 people were killed. Michael T. Rabin, an independent police firearms trainer in Saratoga Springs, New York, said the San Ysidro incident and others, including gangland battles of the 1920s and more recent episodes like the infamous North Hollywood Bank shootout in 1997 and the Columbine School massacre in 1999, force police to keep developing new weapons and tactics. As police officers, we don't have wind tunnels or expensive laboratories. We've learned, unfortunately, out on the street, and we pay for it in blood and sometimes our lives, he said. After the McDonald's massacre, other cities sought advice from San Diego on how to develop tactical teams. Now, such elite units are part of most large departments across the country. The change after San Ysidro is how departments handle officers who have been involved in traumatic incidents. For the first time, San Diego debriefed all involved officers and provided professional counseling for those who needed it. Now it is common practice. We saw the benefit and the need for that, Rosario said, though in 1984, he blew off steam in Las Vegas for 2 days in lieu of counseling. Many departments still fall short, but awareness of the need for psychological services is much greater now than in the 80s. And Lynn Winstead Mabe, a police counselor and consultant in Grapevine, Texas, I truly think they're beginning to care about the psyche of their people, she said. Excellent article by CNN, right? So I'm going to show the last video, which is going to be the video about the memorial space. After they took down the McDonald's, they did a memorial space. Part of the space is a memorial space for the victims. And I want to show it to you. I want you to see it. So I'm going to share my screen now. Yeah, I'll start the video.
40 years since the deadliest mass shooting in California of its time. 21 people were killed when a gunman walked into a San Ysidro McDonald's and started shooting.
CBS 8's Shannon Handy live in San Ysidro, where a ceremony is being held to remember the victims here. Shannon?
Yeah, Eric and Netta, that ceremony started about 30 minutes ago. It's still underway, and it's taking place at the Southwestern College Higher Education Center here on San Ysidro Boulevard. This is actually the location of where that McDonald's used to stand. And now in its place, of course, is the Higher Education Center, as well as this memorial, which, as you can see, shows the pictures of the 21 victims.
We break this ground with reverence and respect for the people whose lives were touched here July 18th, 1984.
On July 18th, 1984, she mentioned a lone gunman walked into the McDonald's, which again used to be on this property. He opened fire, killing 21 people and injuring 19 others. The ordeal lasted for more than an hour. It was one of California's first mass shootings and remains the state's deadliest one. This morning, Southwestern College President Mark Sanchez talked about the importance of this event and what it means to himself and others to remember that tragic day.
I was 13 years old when that event happened, and I lived in the community of San Diego when that happened. And so I remember it vividly. And so I think it's not only an important event for the San Ysidro community itself, but also the county of San Diego to remember what happened that day.
And again, you're taking a live look at the ceremony. There are a number of speakers as well as a mariachi band. And following the ceremony, there's a community fair and student artwork display. That's open until 12:30. The public is, of course, invited to attend. As for this memorial, this is a permanent memorial, and we've seen people throughout the morning come by to watch, take pictures, just take a moment to remember these 21 victims. So if you'd like to pay your respects today, this, of course, is always here. And that is latest from San Ysidro. I'll send it back to you guys.
Okay, so you saw the memorial. It is pretty much a space that they reuse for a positive purpose, which is education, of course. It's acknowledging what happened. And I think that's important. I also want to, I just want to say that I feel like in a lot of these cases, there are red flags. There are ways to try to get the help, the services people need. And I know we're fast forwarding 40 years, we're in 2024, and it's different now. But unfortunately, we have more mass shootings, we have more violence by the hands of guns with people that probably should not have access to a gun. And it's due to various issues, primarily mental health issues relating to homicidal thoughts, suicidal thoughts, depression, past trauma, adversities in the past, stress, all kind of reasons that sum up why we're seeing it on a regular and continuous basis in the United States. So I hope that you are gaining a lot of information from coming to the Hidden Horror Facebook page. Again, this is an educational resource. It's meant to highlight crime, criminal profiling, forensics, criminal investigations. This is really a channel for all of us to learn, to grow, to develop the skills that we can use in our various communities. Now, I don't want to end this video without highlighting the 21 victims. Nothing can bring these people back. And this is so undeserved. I don't want to feel like this could happen to anybody, but the number of mass shootings throughout the United States, it feels like this could happen to anybody. But we know this happened to them. They were violently killed at the hands of someone. And we can take a moment to remember them. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me, for supporting Hidden Horror, for watching my videos, for liking my videos, for subscribing, all of that. I want you to remember, stay safe, stay smart, stay savvy. We're going to remember the victims. We're going to have a quiet moment of silence for them. And I want you to be well. Take care of yourself, your family, your community. I'm going to remove myself, and we are going to take a moment to remember the victims of the 1984 massacre at the McDonald's. Okay? Bye, everybody.